This music is all a part of another tomorrow, another kind of language. Speaking things of nature, naturalness, the way it should be.
Blowing, now I'm in the mode. Kept no man see, interpretation got me blown. Ready to travel to the unknown. Kyanite is the passport for this flying zone. Intoxicated by my own strength. High off of perseverance, I'm on the great lengths to even be smiling. Looking forward is a miracle, cause I stay cutting niggas off like umbilicals. Cease and desist. Eagles will be starved by my nonchalantness that ooze down my scars. I watched the goalposts being moved, so I did a 360 on the madness before I get consumed. It's all in the stars how I choose to go far. Choose to go far, choose to go far. Let's get back to who we are. Let's get back to who we are. Yo, it's all in the stars how I choose to go far. Choose to go far, choose to go far. Let's get back to who we are. Let's get back to who we are. Clearing the path of my intentions, reinforce my purpose during inception. I see all of you as I gaze at my reflection. Please send down your spiritual protection. Choosing the ones, the rise, the natural selection.
All right. Welcome to part 2 of Connecting with City Spirits. Well, this time we're talking about neighborhood spirits, but this is all from chapter 8 of the Urban Magick it's actually called Urban Magick, a guide for the city witch, my bad. A guide for the city witch by Diana Rajchel. Shout out to the author. So in the previous podcast, we spoke about how to connect to the city spirits using a meditation. And then I shared some helpful hacks that you can do if you're currently away from your city, if you're at home, if you want to do it, you know what I mean? Or whatever. So now I'm going to read a little bit about the neighborhood spirits, and then share my thoughts and experiences. If we have enough time, we can briefly touch over urban animals and animal spirits as well. Okay, especially for those of us who see spirit animal totems while we are out and about and stuff like that, right? So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, your neighborhood spirits. While most cities with a population of over 100,000 have a defined and unique spirit, that is not the only human-generated urban spirit that can exist in such a place. Smaller spirits may appear usually over a neighborhood boundary lines. You may already know the sensation of entering a new spiritual territory. Yeah, I definitely have. I can walk in certain neighborhoods and I can just totally feel the energy of it. Like, yeah, that is true. Especially in more like you can feel where the energy is really dense and like intense, and then other parts is more kind of like relaxed and shit like that. And the people reflect it too as well. So yeah. When walking in your city, you might cross a certain street or pass a certain stoplight, and it feels like the air pressure changes or like new eyes are watching you. The houses might look exactly the same as those the other side of an intersection, but somehow the area is infiably different. Yeah. I like to just go when I want to get to know a city for what it is. I will literally get lost, or I will take the bus all the way to the end and back. And I would just kind of just look around. I would talk to the people that's on the bus because they would damn sure be talking to me. And I would just kind of get lost and find my way, you know. So I had the bus books and things like that or whatever. But I would like purposely like just get myself lost and just be on a totally different side of town and just be walking around. I used to do that a lot. So anyways, you can likely still sense the overarching city spirit, especially one of the eminent manifestation, but you might also notice another thread. That feeling suggests the presence of a neighborhood spirit. Like city spirits, neighborhood spirits are generated by collective human energy, but on a much smaller scale in specific subdivisions and building complexes. So maybe a housing community, like a housing community, public housing, the projects, a gated community, like that. They're talking about that. It carries a certain energy, a human energy signature. All right. Neighborhood spirits often have their own boundaries marked by at least 2 crossroads or intersections, one as you enter the neighborhood and one as you leave. Okay. Working with this spirit that makes me think about like gangbangers who defend their turf and shit like that. Like you could, that's some LA shit. Okay. So, working with the spirit is much the same as working with a large city spirit. If you live in a city with a population of under 100,000, you will still have at least 1 or 2 neighborhood spirits to work with. You can view building a relationship with them both as a way of serving your home and your community and as training should you end up in a larger city later in life. The condition and the general demeanor of the city neighborhood can indicate the health of a spirit. Standard visual status markers don't truly tell whether a neighborhood has a strong community. People with nice cars and houses can still contain strife. Those in rundown areas may still have a close-knit community that make for a happy neighborhood spirit. That is so true. Yeah, you could be in a good neighborhood and the energy is just like cold, like, you know what I'm saying? And you could be in a low key, like poor area of town and everybody's cool with each other. Everybody knows everybody, da-da-da. So that makes sense, yeah. The only real indicator of a neighborhood's health is the neighbors that interact in positive ways. If the people feel motivated to, for example, shovel their walks and their neighbors during winter, they're likely a strong and nourished neighborhood spirit. The way you might work with a neighborhood spirit depends on your preferred path of urban magic and your own priorities. The balance and the variety of spirits by neighborhood allows residents in each section to determine what way to adjust the energy flavors that prevent the main city spirit itself from becoming too bland. Okay. Spirit is telling me about a candy lady or a candy man. Yeah, people that sell candy and stuff down the block, around the way, like that kind of thing, right? Those on the chaotic path. Now, there's different paths that each person has when connecting to a city. You have the chaotic path, you have the civic path, you have the home and hearth path, okay? Now, it says those on the chaotic path might want to remove a little chaos energy from one neighborhood and move it to another. Those on the civic path might connect to a neighborhood spirit to help them find out what the neighborhood explicitly needs. Maybe the neighborhood needs a city garden. You know what I'm saying? People be building urban gardens in certain areas, especially in the hood and stuff. They build these gardens to connect with people and things like that. Like, you know, those on the home and hearth path often just want to know how to keep the peace with their neighbors while living comfortably and quietly in a home that they can afford. So everybody has their place, you know, everybody has a certain role in the city, right? Okay, identifying your neighborhood correspondence. When working with city energies, it can help to know what design movement has the most influence over your city and to look for neighborhoods from prior urban design movements. In larger cities, you may see a melange of city beautiful modernism, urban renewal, green city architecture, and landscape designs. Catalog your energy sources. Spend a day taking mass transit across many different routes of the city as you can. Remember, I told you guys I do that? I used to do that. Just get lost, just catch a bus. When I moved back to my hometown in the early 2000s, was it 2005? When I moved back to California, I had to relearn everything over again. I didn't have a car. I had to take public trans, and I had to like relearn my city all over again. So I would have to catch the bus and stuff like that. Some things were changed about my city, and some things remained the same. So I had to go by off my memory of what it was like back in the 90s. And then I had to I had to basically relearn my neighborhood again. So I would catch the transit buses and I had to get lost a couple of times. And then I realized it was one big circle and I was like, okay, cool. And within a few weeks, I was able to memorize where I was at. So it took a while. So yeah, spend a day, spend a day taking mass transit across many different routes in the city as you can. Create your own table of correspondence for the neighborhoods within your city and identify what workings you might want to perform in those areas. The following chart serves as a template Like it could be like, for instance, if you live in like a, let's say you live in the hood or whatever like that, you can go to maybe like a mural of somebody that passed away and do like a little ritual for them, especially if they were beloved and very well known in that neighborhood. You know, their spirit is the one that carries the entire neighborhood. And let's say something happened to them and they had a big mural about them or whatever, then you can go over there and kind of like pay homage, give an offering to that person, you know, because that person that passed is a part of that city. Let's see. Okay. The following chart. Okay. So this is talking about some type of chart. Okay. All right. Let's go into urban animals and animal spirits. Most people think of cities as human habitats. While humans may make most of the mammal population, they are hardly of it. Other creatures, both from nature and from astral dimensions, find ways to adapt to city structures. Most people have had the experience of a housemate leaving out food only to find lines of black ants marching in and gathering around whatever crumbs they may. Anyone who has ever taken out trash at some point had to wrestle with the persistence and creativity of the raccoons or deal with the squirrel, emboldened by the indulgence of too many humans, that turns hostile at the refusal of a potato chip. In Chicago, coyotes have started breeding and living in dense urban areas. The San Joaquin kit fox has found ways to live off of human food discarded in parks and golf courses. Mountain lions in California have reduced their territorial range from 370 square miles to 25 square miles to allow for human population density. Yeah, we used to have like coyote problems in certain places, bear problems, baby bears. They always come around if they need food and blah, 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 blah. That often used to come on the local news a lot. And more than one hiker in San Jose, California, has discovered the uncomfortable way they equal the size of African lions. Yikes. Okay. These animals, especially those where adaptation is a trait of their species, often come to represent spiritual forces present within the city. It differs from city to city. In many municipalities, for example, raccoons are somewhat cute and friendly symbols of foraging and survival. In San Francisco, they are a totem of violence and organized crime. The crows and ravens that flock together on the ocean beach represents the death of an era in a literal and figurative ways. The coyotes symbolize change and survival. The koala bears in Golden Gate Park represent the stoner culture and associated with the city since the late 1960s, the whole, free love movement. Dense environments draw more of all these types, and this includes life in the invisible worlds. These invisible worlds arrive through physical means, or a collective belief can just simply conjure them. Neil Gaiman's American Gods, the stories of how different gods come to North America, to some degree represents the real process. Even though the city and the other members of fairy lore originated in Europe, the Americas have their own fairy folk, intermingling with the spirits of indigenous people. In places with high immigrant populations, the dragons of one continent live next door to the jinn of another. These meetings can produce strange events that become stories that join the pool of the human metaphor. Urban legends. These interactions contribute to the pool of the urban legend. I just said that. It's crazy. The longer a city exists, the more of these stories happen. We as a collective culture tend to build them as ghost stories or odd occurrences, but sometimes our neighbors are just weird, human or not. That's crazy. The new spirits and entities will interact with the indigenous spirits just like any other person dealing with their neighbors. Intercultural dust-ups may occur. Sensitive people can pick up on this. And when it happens in a city, it can be hard to avoid. Even in the spiritual world, ecosystems and apex predators need something to maintain a balance. Okay, just like that, y'all gotta watch that animated movie, Constantine. John Constantine, he fucks Los Angeles. The city. He fucks the collective consciousness of the city. Okay? All things that come into the land must interact with the land. The dirt under your feet will always be the oldest thing around. The land, the city spirit may not always like these smaller spirits. It can create a sense of tension and discomfort, whereas smaller scale spirits will live. So we'll get more into this later. There's a ritual later on in this book that to calm conflicting spirits. But yeah, definitely check out that movie Constantine because it talks about the how to keep balance within the city. Because the city, Los Angeles, the woman in the movie, she had to make a deal with Nergal for him to take a few souls, but not completely take her city over. You feel me? All right, guys.